The power of self-discipline, the bridge between desire and wealth. Everyone wants the reward. Few are willing to live the requirements. Desire is easy. Desire is common. Desire visits almost everyone at some point. Late at night, after disappointment, after watching someone else win. Desire whispers promises of a better life, a stronger future, a version of you that finally stands tall instead of waiting. But desire alone has never built empires. Desire has never paid the price of mastery. Desire has never carried anyone across the gap between who they are and who they must become. That gap is crossed by one force, and one force alone. Self-discipline. Self-discipline is not glamorous. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not trend. It works in silence, in repetition, in moments no one will ever applaud. And that is precisely why most people avoid it. They want transformation without tension. They want wealth without restraint. They want success without structure. But the universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are willing to control. Napoleon Hill understood this long before motivation became entertainment. He knew that the human mind, left undisciplined, becomes its own worst enemy. It drifts. It rationalizes. It negotiates with weakness. And every unguarded thought slowly erodes the future it claims to want. Self-discipline begins where excuses end. Look at history closely, and you will see the same pattern repeated under different names. Edison was not smarter than everyone else. He was more controlled. He refused to let frustration dictate behavior. He refused to let fatigue decide effort. While others obeyed emotion, he obeyed intention. That obedience, repeated thousands of times, bent reality in his favor. This is the truth most people never confront. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your discipline. Goals are visions. Discipline is infrastructure. Without structure, vision collapses under its own weight. The undisciplined mind lives in reaction. It wakes up responding instead of commanding. It waits for motivation like a beggar waits for mercy. And when motivation doesn't arrive, as it rarely does, progress dies quietly, without drama, without resistance. But the disciplined mind moves first. It acts before it feels ready. It understands that emotion is a follower, not a leader. Confidence is built after action, not before. Clarity sharpens during movement, not while waiting. Henry Ford did not wait for universal approval before building the assembly line. Walt Disney did not wait for financial security before dreaming a world no one could yet imagine. They imposed discipline on chaos. They forced consistency where others surrendered to doubt. And here is the uncomfortable part no one wants to hear. Self-discipline feels restrictive at first because it is breaking the addiction to comfort. Comfort is seductive. Comfort tells you to rest instead of refine, to delay instead of decide, to consume instead of create. Comfort whispers that tomorrow is safer than today. And that whisper, repeated daily, becomes a life sentence. Discipline interrupts that cycle. It says no when the world says relax. It says now when the mind says later. It says focus when distractions beg for attention. And slowly, painfully, power returns to you. Because discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect. It is the daily declaration that your future matters more than your mood. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes and start seeing yourself as someone who executes. This is where wealth truly begins, not in the bank, but in the nervous system. Wealth is the external reflection of internal order. Chaos inside produces scarcity outside. Discipline inside creates leverage outside. Money flows toward those who can manage energy, time, and emotion without collapse. Andrew Carnegie did not dominate steel because he loved money. He dominated because he mastered coordination of people, priorities, and pressure. He could delay gratification while others demanded immediate reward. That delay is the hidden engine behind every fortune. The disciplined person understands time differently. They do not waste it, fear it, or romanticize it. They respect it. They know that small actions, repeated daily, compound into unstoppable momentum. While others look for breakthroughs, they build foundations. While others chase intensity, they cultivate consistency. And consistency is unstoppable. Self-discipline also clarifies purpose. When distractions fall away, intention sharpens. You stop confusing motion with progress. You stop mistaking busyness for effectiveness. You choose fewer things and execute them fully. That focus alone separates leaders from noise. Discipline trains the mind to tolerate boredom in service of greatness. It teaches you to sit in discomfort without escaping, to remain present when the work feels repetitive, to continue when results lag behind effort. That capacity to endure the unglamorous middle is the true bridge between desire and wealth. Because desire ignites the journey, but discipline finishes it. And finishing is what separates the remembered from the forgotten. Anyone can start when energy is high and hope feels fresh. But discipline is revealed in the middle, when novelty fades, when the path narrows, when the reward feels distant and invisible. This is where most people quietly turn back, not because they failed, but because they refuse to govern themselves long enough for success to recognize them. Self-discipline is the ability to remain loyal to a future you cannot yet see. It is the refusal to let temporary emotion override permanent intention. The disciplined mind understands something the reactive mind never learns. Feelings are weather, not direction. They pass. They change. They lie. But principles endure. Napoleon Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose, but purpose without discipline is fantasy. Purpose must be protected, guarded from distraction, defended against doubt. Every day, the world will attempt to pull you away from your aim through noise, comparison, urgency without importance. Discipline is the filter that keeps the essential and discards the trivial. This is why the disciplined rise while the talented stall. Talent without discipline is unpredictable. Intelligence without discipline is dangerous. Ambition without discipline is exhausting. But discipline turns the ordinary into the formidable. It sharpens instinct. It steadies nerves. It creates reliability, and the world rewards reliability. Opportunities gravitate toward those who show up prepared, consistent, and composed under pressure. Belief deepens here as well. Not the loud belief of declarations, but the quiet belief born of proof. Each disciplined action becomes evidence. Each kept promise reinforces trust in yourself. Over time, self-doubt loses its voice, not because it disappears, but because it is no longer in charge. This internal hierarchy matters. When discipline leads, fear falls in line. When discipline commands, procrastination retreats. When discipline governs, desire becomes refined rather than reckless. Consider Lincoln carrying the weight of a divided nation. He was not driven by comfort or popularity, but by obligation to principle. Discipline kept him steady when criticism was relentless and outcomes uncertain. He read, reflected, decided, repeatedly, even when every decision carved deeper lines into his face. That steadiness under pressure is discipline at its highest form: moral, mental, emotional. Discipline also demands humility, the willingness to learn continuously. The disciplined do not assume mastery, they pursue it. They study their craft. They analyze failure without dramatizing it. They adjust without abandoning their core. Learning becomes an act of respect for the goal. Adaptability grows from this posture. Discipline is not rigidity. It is controlled flexibility. You remain firm in vision, fluid in execution. You let go of methods that no longer serve without letting go of the mission itself. This is how progress survives change. And through every adjustment, gratitude keeps the heart aligned. Gratitude prevents discipline from hardening into bitterness. It reminds you why the effort matters. It reframes sacrifice as privilege, the privilege of becoming capable, reliable, and strong. Resilience then becomes inevitable. Not the loud resilience of bravado, but the quiet resilience of endurance. The kind that shows up the day after disappointment. The kind that rebuilds after loss. The kind that does not need to be seen to persist. Here is the truth that completes the bridge. Wealth is not the reward for desire. It is the byproduct of discipline applied over time. Money follows structure. Success follows standards. Influence follows consistency. The outer world mirrors the inner order you maintain. And once discipline becomes identity, life responds differently. Decisions become faster. Regret diminishes. Momentum builds. You stop arguing with yourself and start moving with yourself. The friction disappears. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What does the future require of me today?" That question, answered daily, reshapes destiny. Because the disciplined do not wait to be rescued by opportunity. They become ready before it arrives. And when it does, they cross the bridge effortlessly, not because it was easy, but because they were prepared. Desire may introduce you to the possibility of wealth, but self-discipline walks you across the bridge, step by step, until the distance between who you were and who you are meant to be no longer exists.